right, so welcome back to the Motion and Success podcast episode where we have an amazing guest today. And as you guys know, we interview a lot of great people that do great things. And today is going to be a great episode because this is actually one of my mentors when I first started the game, when it comes to credit, credit repair, traveling for free, hotels, all of that stuff. So this is the episode you definitely need to tune into. Make sure you have some notes because she's going to drop it on y'all, like for sure. Right, so my name is Cody, Future _ the CEO, my co-host here.
Io, IYODEJI.
And we have our guest for today, which is Shedah3. So introduce yourself, Shedah.
What's up, y'all? So if you do not know me, I am your favorite middle school math teacher, also known as Shedah3. And I love to teach people how to leverage credit to actually learn how to travel for free and get the benefits of credit, whether it's personal or business. So I'm very excited to sit here and talk about how much motion and success, I've been able to help people get.
All right, cool. So we're going to start it off real easy. Where are you from? What do you do? How do you help the people out as far as credit?
So where am I from? Well, I'm from an island in the street. That's Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
An island in the sun. That's Jamaica.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I've been a middle school math teacher for the past 8 years. I teach 7th and 8th grade math currently. So I understand the 9-to-5 employees route to getting into business and entrepreneurship. And what I'm into currently is, besides teaching my kids financial literacy, because I'm the math teacher, I can always throw it in there.
Yeah.
I also teach adults the same thing, because a lot of times they say, I wish I learned it in school.
Yeah.
So I kind of bridge the gap where I teach kids in school. And then as an adult, I actually teach y'all the same way I would teach my kids. So you can get that financial literacy that you missed in school. You can get it through credit. You can get it how understanding how to actually set up your profile, get it while understanding how to set up your budget and other things that we think that we missed in school,
right.
Or even in like the financial aspect. So things that even I wish I learned earlier, I'm just doing my best to pass it on to, everybody else around me to help people improve.
Okay.
That's dope. And I got to say, Brooklyn in the house, like all three of us, we from Brooklyn. So that's super dope.
Yeah, I love bigging up Brooklyn.
But like, how'd your credit journey start? Like, how did you, like when did you start learning that credit cards, like, came with rewards? Because I know in like our community, like sometimes they be like, don't use that credit card, you're gonna mess up your credit score. Like, it's like a stigma kind of behind using the credit card. So how'd you figure out like, the good side of credit?
So I will say this, right? The myths about credit, they spread like a plague. Mm-hmm. They spread faster than the truth. So when it came to me understanding fully credit, I actually learned this years ago. I'm sorry. I actually learned this years ago when I was actually playing in college. So I didn't fully understand it yet because it wasn't, I didn't understand credit, but I understood the reward system. So when I was in college, I actually was able to, my college coach, shout out to Coach White, she actually told me, hey, Shedah, I think you'd be the only person to follow up with this. And because I played collegiate basketball, we would travel all the time, commercial airlines. Now, just a heads up for you, if somebody pays your ticket to go somewhere, once you're paying for an airline and you got to go through TSA and all that stuff, those miles belong to you. So when the school was paying for me to fly to games, those miles didn't belong to Marshall University. Go Herd. It belonged to Shedah3. So I took those miles and I put them in my frequent flyer account. And I was able to graduate with like over 150,000 miles that I got from flying on scholarship while playing basketball. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's where it started initially. And then I just started getting upgrades. Now, if anybody ever traveled with me, I'm very bougie. I don't care how people act. There's certain things that I got used to because I understood the travel game that after a while, I'm like, why I keep getting upgraded? I started trying to figure out why. I didn't understand credit yet, but I knew it had something to do with the fact that I had a high status with American Airlines. So once I figured that out, I got my first credit card around 2017 when it came to like sharing another airline card and another financial institution's credit card. And once that started to happen and I fully understood it, it was off. It was game on, baby.
Yeah. How can you really what's the right question? How much trips can you really go on with 150,000 points? Like, so
it really depends on where you're going and the status of how you want to fly.
Uh-huh.
Right. So if you're going domestically, meaning within the 48 states, 48 continental US. That's what's called continental. Yeah. Continental USA.
Yeah.
So not including Alaska and Hawaii, you can probably take around 10 trips, depending on where you're going and how far out you book your flight. Mm-hmm. So if you decide I want to go somewhere tomorrow, you're going to pay the premium for that. But if you plan your trip strategically, you will actually be able to probably spend $15,000 round trip with $12. Right. I'm pretty sure if you're spending $12 on a ticket, you're going to travel more often. So domestically, it depends on how you want to fly. Now, me personally, I don't like to buy first class tickets. I like to get upgraded to first class. But if the cost of the flight in miles is not that much, I'll pay the premium just for my comfort.
And most times you're already going to get
I'm going to get the upgrade. Like 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get the upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, she left me in the back when we went to Vegas.
I did. He kept walking. I was like, I'll see you later, my man. So I'll meet you at baggage claim. All right, you need some water? I got a water.
And she texted me a few days before. I don't know if I'm going to pick ravioli, spaghetti, or this. I'm like, shit, I don't know what we're going to eat.
They going to get you some sun chips.
Yeah, some Biscoff cookies or something. But yeah, so that's the perks. But how can somebody hit those perks? Like, do you have to have specific credit cards to hit those perks?
Absolutely. So I don't get all of my benefits just by traveling alone. Like a lot of business travelers, they get a lot of benefits because their company, again, is paying for them to fly commercially. And every time you fly commercially, it's your ticket. So all of those miles and segments that you're flying, your company's paying for because you're a business traveler and you're getting credit for that. Now, I don't have that. I wish the DOE was paying me to travel. Trust me. Let's talk about that. Hey, all right. So for me, I get a mix between traveling to speak, and then I get a mix for leisure, and then I get a lot from my credit cards. So depending on where you want to, like what credit card institutions you have, and I never actually recommend people to start off with like a airline co-branded card specifically. I would say start off with a credit card that gives you more options, because for me, I'm a Delta baby. Like a lot of people don't like Delta right now. They beefing with them and all kind of stuff.
I like Delta.
I'm a Delta baby, but I wouldn't recommend somebody who doesn't have, a lot of credit card spend and go and get the Delta American Express credit card. I would say either stay within the American Express based credit cards, or maybe like a Chase or a Capital One. So you have the flexibility to fly with whatever airlines offer you the opportunity for the least amount of points that you can use for your flight. So that's what I would say. If somebody wanted to get started, I wouldn't start the way I started, because now I direct people to start better than me. But you can get a lot of the same benefits because now you have more options.
Right.
And that's the whole point.
Yeah, that's what it is. How'd you learn it though? My fault, bro. Yeah.
How'd I learn it?
How'd you learn this game?
Oh man, I'm very inquisitive. So once I really I got my first Delta Gold credit card, right? I'm like, yo, what are all these things I'm over here collecting, I'm spending? And I was spending a lot of money because I used to flip stuff online. I used to buy apparel, sneakers, and I used to flip it online, and I would buy it with my credit card. So I would turn around. At one point, I had $120,000 miles in Delta points, right? Delta Sky Miles. And I'm like, yo, I need to do something with this. Like, how does this thing work? And I knew that it worked a certain way, but I had only did it with American Airlines initially because that's where we flew. So I got on YouTube University. Then I started testing stuff out. And once I did, it just started to make sense. Like, oh, okay, this cards, these flights, I can use these miles and pay for this flight. Okay, bet. I need to go here anyway. I already spent the money. It's only going to cost me $12. Let's go. I'm out. Right. And once I started getting used to that, like, it's only $12. You know how comfortable you sit when you know you only spent $12 on a ticket?
I'm telling you.
Do you know how chill you sit? You don't even fuss with anybody on the plane. Like, you just like, it don't matter if you sit in the front or the back. You're calm when you spend $12 on a flight.
I'm telling you.
Now, I don't want anybody sitting in the back, but but you really act different. Like, it's like you have a sense of freedom. And once I kind of got a good taste of that, it was like, nah, I need to see this more. And that's really how I always get started into something. Mm-hmm. I get one taste and it's on.
Yeah. Ain't been flying the same ever since.
Oh yeah, nah. My mom is officially like done. Like she don't like anybody to book her ticket. She's like, oh no. She'da will book. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. She's gonna take care of it.
That's dope. That's real dope. Okay.
Yeah, dope. And you said that you was a math school teacher. So like, how do you like teach the students? Like, especially like middle school, right?
I teach now. I just left work.
Oh wow!
At
So
2:40.
how do you get them on like being interested in credit cards? Because a lot of people might look at it like, I ain't worried about that till like I'm 18 or I'm 21. Like, how do you get them involved in it and caring about it?
So I'm gonna say something that's really outlandish. Okay. A lot of the kids I teach are unfortunately raised around scammers. Because sounds wild, right? Sorry. Because one day I was paying, my credit Bible, right? So one day I was paying, I had to pay some bills and I had my card book with me. It's over, I don't know, 50 to 60 credit cards in there. And I'm looking for a specific credit card to pay a specific bill. And one of my kids come in here and go, Miss Henriques, you be swiping? I'm like, what? I was like, yo, you be, and he said it so calm. Like, he was like, yo, you be swiping? I'm like he knows it. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what? He's like, you be scamming, Miss Henriques? I said, no, sweetie. I said, a scammer means that none of these cards would have my name on it. These are mine and my businesses. And I was like, what's going on? Because he said it's so relaxed. And because they see it already, right? Some of them already see it. I'm not going to say that's every student, but I got a couple, right? They already know about money. These kids walk around they go to the bodega every single day. They spend at least $15 to $20 because I see the junk they bring inside, right? And, Arizona's, they 99 cents, but the chips used to be 50 cents. Now they're $1. Yeah. So I already know how much you're spending because I know how much I used to spend. And a lot of my kids, they have the money. They just don't understand the numbers behind the money. Like the bodega man's making money off y'all every single day. Do you know why? So let's run those numbers. Okay, if a bag of chips costs you, and I'm just going to just do $2. A bag of chips costs you $2. If you had to buy 5 bags, how much you giving him? They know $10. They don't really know. Sometimes they don't realize that's the math. The same thing, like if you were selling a digital product for $20 and you sold 5 of them, how much you made? $100. It's the same math. Just applying it to business helps you to actually understand the money a lot more. So a lot of my students, some of them say, I don't like math. And then they pull out their money and go to the store. I'm like, bro, you gonna let him give you the wrong piece of change? They're like, no. I'm like, so you love math because you want to make sure you get your bread every single time. So I tie it to that. And the last thing I tie it to is because I didn't fully understand credit when I was growing up either. I didn't even know the credit score range. You go from 350 to 850. So I started tying it to their behaviors. If you got an 850 behavior, that means you turned in your homework, you studied for your test, you came on time, you wear a uniform. 850, let's go, baby. And then you late, you got no homework, you cussing, you got collection, late payment charge off. You at 350 walking around, look at you. Horrible, right?
Look at you.
And they don't like to be called a 350, don't like to be called a 500. I'm like, look at you, 100-point increase, Tom. We at 720 now. They understand that language now. So if I say like, hey, you at 850, they excited. So I'm just tying the actual knowledge of credit to their emotions. So hopefully when they get older, they just remember how it made them feel. Because they might not remember the actual numbers, but they might say, yo, when she called me a 5, I ain't like that. Good. Don't like it. I don't want you to. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's how I kind of integrate it into the classroom as much as I can. Besides like the other little nuances of math, but just tying that technical language down to their emotions. You don't know how mad they got. I'm like 400. They be pissed. You know how Brooklyn kids are.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. So now, what's your favorite credit cards? Like, you got the Bible. I got
the Bible.
Every page is about 3 to 4 cards, and she flips through them. Like, hold on, wait.
I'm like, which one you need?
This one. All right, cool. What's your favorite one out of all of those credit cards you got?
My favorite,
or top 3.
All right, thank you for the top 3. Let's go. Top 3 would be, I'm going to say my Built.
Mm-hmm.
That's the card. That's the card for renters. So I like that card. I use that card at least 8 to 10 times a month.
Okay.
A lot on rent day. So a lot on the first of the month. I always use it on the first of the month. I like my Chase Sapphire.
Yeah, we love the Chase.
Love the Chase. Love the Chase Boogie. JP. That's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming soon. And then lastly, I'm stuck between my business gold and my blue business cash. No. Plus.
I had a feeling those were your top 3 too.
I'm stuck in between. I have, I'm an AU on a gold because I don't want another personal gold, but those are like my top. I use that card if I don't have the other one, but
So those are your top 3. All right, cool. And then, like, for example, with the hotel cards, like, do you have hotel cards? Huh?
I do. I have my Hyatt. I have my World of Hyatt. Oh, I forgot about the baby.
Oh yeah.
I love my
Hilton
World of
and
Hyatt.
Hyatt. Wait, how about Marriott?
I have all 3.
Oh.
I have Hilton, Hyatt, and Marriott. But I don't. So all right, I'm kind of an elitist. So if I can get the status fast, I'll rock with you. If it takes too much work, like why are you doing so much? You know? So with me, my preferred would be like the Hyatt card. I had that on the personal side. So and I was actually mad because a month after I got it, they came out with the business. Huh.
Oh, right.
They had the World of Hyatt business and it was not out previously. So I like the Hyatt credit card. It's not in my top 3 only because I don't like to specifically use hotel branded or co-branded credit cards on my everyday spend. I like to, if I need to hit status on a credit card and I can do that through spend, I will figure out how to get it through spend, do that first, and then never use the card again. Mm-hmm. Unless I'm booking with that specific hotel so I can get the maximum out of that benefit. But as far as like everyday spend, you're not going to see me pulling out my World of Hyatt card and be like, oh, let me pay for this one. No, I'm going to pull out the bill or my Chase or my Go Business.
I remember that one time we was at dinner and then I put out a Capital One card.
And I
put out a Quicksilver, bro. Like the Quicksilver is one of those credit cards. You get 1.5. I'm like, all right, cool. Let me pay my share with the bill. She's like, her and Ben looking at me like, you sure you want to do that? I'm like, what you mean we pay for it one time? I like this credit card. She's like, it's better if you use the Chase. I'm like, just take the Chase, bro. Just take it. But it's a method to the madness because now when you start using these specific credit cards for specific things, now you're able to start building up the amount of points, and then you know those points add up, and they adds up quickly.
They add up very quickly. So now, especially when you're using them on multiplying categories like dinner.
Yeah. But now, so my question is, you got a question, bro?
Yeah, I was gonna say like, so how would you say like the value is worth it for like, you know, beginners and stuff like that? Because I know some of these cards, they got like annual fees and things like that. So it usually turns some people away. Like, do you feel like if a person doesn't fly a lot or like they don't travel, should they like engage in buying these type of cards?
So the cards that I gave you have a total of $100 in annual fees. So the excuses can always climb. As far as somebody not like saying like, oh, well, the annual fees are high, like $100, bro. And to be honest, the Chase, the Sapphire Preferred gives you global entry, and TSA pre-check, which is $100. So you got that back. The Chase Sapphire also gives you cell phone coverage. So if you're complaining about the annual fee, you're probably paying cell phone insurance with your credit card company, with your cell phone company. You can just pay your cell phone bill with the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, and you don't have to pay that. So again, you're getting money back. You also get primary rental coverage when you rent a car. So if you're going to pay extra $34 per day for that, you don't have to pay that. So it's like certain things that the credit card already covers that you don't have to necessarily pay on top of travel insurance, like a whole bunch of things. So as far as like annual fees, for me, I look at them like if the benefits outweigh the fee, it's a bonus to me. You get what I'm saying? And with the 3 cards I mentioned, like Built, there is no annual fee. Mm-hmm. And that's a World Elite MasterCard. We can get into that. Chase, that's a Visa Signature Preferred. That's $95. And the Blue Business Cash, that one's not really a travel card, but there's no annual fee for that. And it's also...
It's like 2X, ain't it?
It's 2X, exactly. It's 2 points per dollar until you hit $50,000. And it's any category. So it's not like you're tied to lunch, dinner, travel, hotels. And then you have, that one's no annual fee, zero interest for 12 months. Now, there is a business card, but there is a personal option to that, which is like the Amex Everyday, which has a 0 annual fee. So, I mean, if you're complaining about the fees, then technically this game might not be there for you yet. Or you just have to find a low tier card, like the 3 I just mentioned, that don't come with fees, but still have, don't come with high fees, but still have a lot of the benefits that you would enjoy when you become a traveler. And on top of that, it still puts you in the categories for the best travel partners, because Built has a ton, Chase has a ton, and Amex has a ton, and a lot of them always overlap. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So what would you say is like the like somebody, like they got a 700 credit score, they want to start off, they want to like start building these points up. Like, what would you say is the best entry level card to just jump in the game and then kind of like from there go on to like the higher tier cars?
I just gave them to you, the Bilt, Chase, and Amex, because with the Chase card with the Chase Sapphire, you get into the Chase family. And once you treat them good, you can always upgrade that card into a reserve if you want to. And then because you're in Chase, it'll be easier to get the business side. And then American Express, once you have a relationship with American Express, you can always get new American Express credit cards. Bilt is a personal credit card and it's no annual fee. So, and if you pay rent, you don't have to pay transaction fees on paying your rent every single month. And you can use the credit card and get points on your highest bill that you pay every single month. So though, if somebody's like, hey, I want to jump off the deep end and go get started, like, well, here's the kiddie pool. Here's a kiddie pool. Let me get you some floaties, and you can play around with these, and it costs you $100 for the year to get started and actually start reaping some of the benefits, because all three of those cards collect credit card points, which is what I always suggest people start with. Like, I used to be a big fan of cashback cards. I'm not really a fan because the cashback is only the cashback can only get you what the cashback can get you. So if you have $500, you can only get $500 worth of stuff. Yeah. But with points, if you have 50,000 points, that could range from a $300 ticket to a $1,000 ticket. So the value is never really tied to cash, it's tied to the value of the points at that time. And anytime the points are worth more, it's a bigger benefit. So even like last year, I had to cancel my trip because of a family emergency, but I was supposed to go to Paris. I bought a round trip ticket for 81,000 points. The ticket in cash cost $6,000. Which one, and to be honest, it was 6,000 plus fees. Which one sounded better than me? It was actually a way better deal for me to transfer those points. And I didn't sit in the back. That was business class, by the way. Yeah, that was not doing that, right?
And so, not to mention too, sometimes when you transfer it, it might double or 3x.
And actually, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. So I didn't even have to transfer the 84,000. I only transferred half. So the trip only really cost me 41,000 points, and I got a match for it. You know why? Because at that time, because this is old, but at the time, Bilt was having a transfer bonus with Air France. So if I transferred my points from Bilt to Air France, they matched me 100%. That rarely happens. We get 100%. Sometimes they do 25, they do 30. It's a rare occasion where they do 100% match because they're giving you the other 40,000 miles for free just for transferring it during that time. So that flight really only cost me 41,000 and like $200. And I was sitting, I had, like I said, it was a business class seat. So it was laid flat. They asked me for my meals and all that stuff. If I didn't, I would have went, and literally if I didn't have a family emergency, I just had to cancel. And guess what? When I canceled, guess what I got back? My points, and still there.
Wait, they give you points back?
Yeah, we thought I was gonna keep them.
I didn't know that.
Nah.
I didn't know that.
It's when you're booking flights with points, more than likely your points are always going to be redeemable. Like, you'll get them back. They're not going to keep them.
I'm thinking it's not going to go back to the credit card. It's going to stay inside of Air France.
Yeah, it's going to stay inside their portal. Once you transfer,
it doesn't come back.
Yeah, once it's a one-way ticket. Yeah. Once you transfer out, ain't no, oh, you know what happened? My mama, grandmama, my cousin pressed the button and Boo-Boo the dog touched it, and that's what happened. Like, nah, they like, yo, that joint is sayonara, baby. Yeah. That joint's going. So it's still there, and I can always rebook that with Air France or any of their partners, but I still got that extra 40. I didn't have to transfer the whole thing. I only had to transfer half of it.
Right. So now I know your favorite two words put together. The SM word, right? The status matters words. Why is that so important? Like, why does status really matters? I know you just mentioned like business class, but people probably wondering like, all right, cool. She got upgraded all the time. And people sitting at the back, she just paid, 40,000 points and $200. But why does status really matter?
So status matters because everybody wants loyalty, right? Yeah. Through your friendships, relationships, business relationships, everybody wants loyalty. Nobody wants somebody that's going to be like, you got to worry about them all the time. Like, you know what? They're going to slide off in the back. I got to worry about that. Hold my pockets. Yeah. Nobody wants that. These big companies, they want the same thing. They want loyalty from their customers and they reward it. So I say status matters because there's a lot of times that people, like I said, my experiences when I travel are a lot different than other people's experiences. So I rarely complain. I rarely have a negative experience because status matters. So I'll give you an example. I was in Atlanta about 2.5 weeks ago on a weekend, and there was a big party. Now I booked my hotel. I had 2 different hotels that I had booked. I didn't realize the venue I was speaking at was 30 minutes from the first hotel. So I'm like, oh yeah, nah, I'm not driving. I might be running late in the morning or something. I don't want to drive. So I switched it to another hotel about 10 minutes away. Now, I technically should not have been able to get a room. However, I have globalist status with highest. So guess who got a room? Shedah3.
Yeah.
So then I get there and it's a big all white party. Huge. I mean, like I'm seeing the line. I'm like, damn, I want ballet open. This, that, and the third. I see all, grandma and them coming out and they all whites with the bow tie alligator shoes. Some got the hat with the feather. Bro, they got the joint. They coming out to step tonight. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, they be line dancing. She like, yeah, how did you go through? So I'm in the line. I'm like, damn, it's looking crazy. And they just keep turning people away. Like, yo, garage full, garage full, garage full. So I get up there and he's like, he's staying at the hotel. I'm like, yeah. He's like, garage full. I said, for globalists? He was like, nah, we got parking for globalists.
Reserved.
But for everybody else, they was sending them to a parking lot three blocks down and they had to pay for it. I left my car right there and it was free.
Valet too?
Yes. Because you globalists, you take care of them, they take care of you. So because I have high status with Hyatt, which is actually the highest status with Hyatt, they cover those expenses for things that I would normally have to pay. That's $50 a night. I was there for 2 nights. That's $100 I did not have to pay because I'm loyal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
So when I say status matters, on top of that, they raised me to the room with the balcony. I had a nice big suite, right?
Yeah.
Always.
Get there, originally, it's like
you got a line. I don't.
Yeah,
your time is more valuable when you show loyalty. So that's just some of the perks. Besides, like airline, you don't wait in lines. You got Sky Priority. You got if you even if there is a line, you can skip the line and go to the front. Like they're gonna get you where you need to go, and they're gonna treat you a certain way because you're loyal. So that's why status matters because nobody wants to sit here and be. You think I really want to walk with my suitcase? It's late. I done switch flights. I'm not doing all of that. I said, globalists? He said, nah, we got parking for globalists. Then the lady behind me was like, how'd she get to leave her car? He was like, yo, she globalist. She was like, global what? I'm like, I'll see you later, mommy. Have a good night. Listen, that's how it works.
Wow. So when you start realizing that a lot of people didn't know about flying this type of way or like going to these these 5-star hotels and doing these type of things, like when did you realize like not everybody knows about it and you started teaching them?
So the same time that I realized that a lot of people didn't know about credit. Because how will you know about loyalty programs if you don't understand credit? If a lot of loyalty programs are tied to credit card programs. So that's when I really started to look at it like, oh, okay. And then I would say certain things and people look at me funny because I'm a little extra sometimes, but it's only because I travel a certain way. So they be like, oh, you want me there? And I'm like, I'm not going to the gate. Like even my sisters travel a lot and my sisters travel a lot and they're like, oh, we're at the gate. I'm like, I'm not at the gate. And they're like, and they travel a lot, but they're not really savvy into the credit card points world. That's not where they live. They just like to get and go and they will book a Spirit flight. And they know I will not book a Spirit flight. Like they know they will be by themselves. Like they know I am not coming. Like I'm like, okay, I'll meet you there. We're at the airport. I'm not on that flight. Like you're a wallet. So, and that's nothing against, what I'm saying. It's not for me. I like seats that have more than styrofoam cushion and a piece of leather. It's wild. But that's when I realized like, okay, well, if people don't know about credit, then these are a lot of perks of having good credit. So if you don't understand credit, you more than likely don't also understand these points and miles. And you could be saving a lot of money if you just understood how the credit system actually worked and make it work to your advantage.
Right.
Damn. Right. I could kind of imagine that like we like all of us arrived to the airport and by the time we all lining up for TSA, you're already at the gate, like through like kind of less than 5 minutes. So damn, I know it sucks traveling with you as a friend because you was probably going already, waiting at the gate.
You better I'll tell you what to do. I'm like, yo, get your pre-check. If you got cleared, go ahead, do that now because I'm not waiting with you.
Right. So now you said using credit to your advantage. Like how were you able to actually use it like credit to cash flow? Like, like investing into certain things, like, different businesses. Using credit, so now you actually have income coming in, every single month, every year, every quarter, whatever it may be.
So credit to cash flow, I like the way you phrase that because again, our introduction to credit was negative, right? Don't use credit, it's bad. But the more and more people that I meet that are wealthy, they're like, yo, use it as a tool, right? Mm-hmm. Money's always a tool. So when it came to putting credit into cash flow, what I eventually did was I figured out businesses that I can get into that were a barrier of entry that were comfortable for me because everything's a risk. but are you comfortable with the risk? Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, take $1 million risk. If you ain't comfortable with it, you're gonna be stressing every single day. Everything you do, you're gonna be moving in fear. You're not gonna operate the business as you have confidence. Because your business will only grow if you're confident that you're moving correctly. Because if you have a client come to you or something come to you and you look shook, are they gonna work with you? No, they're not. They're gonna work with your confidence. So I did a business that was, comfortable for me at that time. And it ended up working out really well because I was able to get into a different industry for a low ticket, like less than $30,000 at the time. To be honest, it was around 19,000. And that business, that equipment essentially cash flows me about $1,300 a month. Right now, you might say, "Oh, that's only that," but it's $1,300 a month that's going to hit. That just hit like 2 days ago. Every single month, no matter if I go do something or not. And once I started to actually learn, like, okay, I can use credit to my advantage. That's when things started to work out for me, because I don't know if I would have took that 19,000 out in cash and invested in that. But I was able to use OPM, which is the bank's money, and actually do that and pay them back their monthly amount and keep the rest for myself. And I can continue to do that as long as that piece of asset is cash flowing. And once that started happening and I started fully understanding, like, okay, well, I could use their money to make money, pay them back fully. It was really what I was doing with flipping, sneakers and apparel on a higher scale. But sometimes you never really think bigger than your environment until you get around other people that help you think bigger. And once I started realizing, like, I could leverage this, like, and not my personal credit, I could leverage this business credit to go and get, acquire equipment and businesses and things that can cash flow for me. That's when it really started to get like, all right, let's get locked and loaded.
Shedah, you've been on a run with the real estate this entire year. I ain't gonna front. This entire year you've been on a run with that for sure. But okay, all right, cool. So like, what about like life insurance? Like, because I know at one point you was heavy on Instagram lives, all of that stuff, whole life, term life, and then that was your past life too. Selling insurance and things like that. So how has that turned you up as well?
So to be honest, insurance that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. When I first got hired by this insurance company, I didn't even know I was going to be a life insurance agent, but I didn't read the fine print too much on a lot of things back in the day. I read a lot now, but back in the day, I didn't really read too much. So I drove 9 hours for an interview, not sure of what I was going to learn. Yes, drop your head. 9 hours. I drove from West Virginia back to New York. So I was living in West Virginia at the time. I had just graduated with my master's.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, I want to figure out what I want to do. And I drive up there. I do the interview. I told the supervisor, like, I just got off the road. Like, I got here like 2 hours ago for this interview. He's like, you drove 9 hours here for this interview? And he hired me off the spot for that, right? And once that happened and I learned that job, I learned a lot about myself. So I didn't know I could door knock into 5 boroughs and feel confident. Right? Because New York is not the friendliest place to be like, hey, can I come in your house and possibly teach you about child safety kits and all that stuff? So I didn't fully understand. I didn't know that there was really a limit to that. But I also knew, like, I'm in New York, like anything could happen. And I did very well in my first 2 years selling insurance, like very, very well. And I learned a lot about myself as far as selling life insurance and also understanding the product. And the best way to sometimes learn about something is to deeply dive into it. So for 2 full years, that's all I did. And if we didn't have a product or my company didn't have a product that I could potentially help you with, I was always doing deep data dives on other companies' products, and I would make friends with other agents. So if you needed a policy that had disability and long-term care and we didn't sell it, I had a friend that would do it. And they would just come sell you the policy. So referrals kind of worked that way for me, because I realized once I was in the business of serving, the referrals would come either way. Like, they just kept coming. So even if I turned and say I gave you my client, because I could have sold them anything, they would have bought from me. But it's not what they really wanted. And I gave it to you. Guess what they just did? They just called everybody like, yo, she honest, oh my God. And they just sent me. And at one point, I didn't even really have to go out and search for leads because I was an honest broker. So I learned a lot about insurance, like term policies, whole life policies. And again, the myths about insurance spread faster than the truth. And once I started to learn it, I'm like, yo, is my family protected? Like, what's going on? And I started to make sure that I was covered and people around me also were covered, because the last thing you're going to catch me doing is a GoFundMe for a family member, because I already know I had this conversation and we had a family meeting.
Damn. So, like, but like, once people hear life insurance, they think about like, oh, when I'm gone. Like, you know, so they don't, so some people, they might not even want to talk about it. You know what I mean? So, but I know it's other perks to life insurance, especially like when you're living. Like, could you explain like some of those type of perks?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when it comes to, you know, life insurance, I know we don't like talking about death. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, it's the most pleasant conversation. However, you have to be prepared. So as far as benefits when somebody passes, yes, like there are benefits for the family members when somebody passes. Because if you actually cared about them, you don't want them struggling when you're not here. But while you're alive, can you take advantage of a policy? Absolutely. So it just depends on what type of policy you have. If you sat here and got a term policy, there's not much you can do with that while you're alive, because it doesn't hold any equity, doesn't hold any cash value. Now, I like to compare whole life policies and term policies to like whole life, owning a house, and term policies to renting an apartment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I ain't talking about New York City Section 8 renting an apartment. You can pass it down, change the lease, and still pay $200, right? I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about a general.
Pass down the apartment.
You know what I'm talking about? They be passing down apartments. That probably your big grandmama had that joint. It was $67. Y'all still paying $67. It's 2003. What is going on? So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a general renting apartment, right? So when you have a term policy, like just like when you have a rent, you can't go to your landlord and be like, yo, let me get some of that equity, bro. He gonna be looking at you like, what? That's not for you. But when you have a whole life policy, your whole life policy builds cash value. And while you're alive, you can take advantage of that cash value just like you could the equity in your house and borrow against it. Now, the best benefit about whole life policies that's different to home ownership is that when you borrow against your house, they run your credit. When you borrow against your whole life policy, ain't no credit being run. It's your money.
Do they initially run your credit
No.
when you first start? No? How about like interest? Like when you pull it, do they? Because I know that, like, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day. They was like, oh, listen, you know, my utilization is high. I think their credit was probably a little bit bad, but they was talking about like doing a HELOC, like on their actual, you know, house.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I mean, that can work, but now, like, say for example, if you have a life insurance policy, can you pull from it, use it without, you know, being charged interest? Or, you know, you said it doesn't pull for your credit, but is there interest?
It's a loan, so there will be interest attached, but normally it's low. Like, I know I helped somebody pull or take a loan out against their policy, or borrow the cash value, and it was like 4.25%. It was low. Mm-hmm. You're gonna pay interest, but the interest goes back into your policy. It's a loan because they're lending you the money, but it's coming out of your cash value. So again, it doesn't matter. You can have a 200 credit score. It wouldn't matter because it's your money and you've been putting that money in and it's been growing according to the cash value set by your policy. But when you have a house, and I'm not saying that, you know what I'm saying, it's don't borrow against your house, but they do have to run your credit because you have to go to the bank for the HELOC. So it's like, you know, I compare it, but there is one difference. When you go borrow money from your house, they got to run your credit. When you go to your insurance policy, nobody cares. Mm-hmm. They're not running it. You'll have your money within 3 days, depending on the amount and how you want the payment. If you want to check, 3 days. You want direct deposit, probably 24 hours.
So that money is just sitting there growing. The one that you borrowed against is just in the policy and it's continuing to grow.
So I will say this. You have to make sure your policy is set up correctly. Okay.
That's the most important thing.
That's the most important thing. Absolutely, Cody. So when the agent sets up your policy and you want to make sure they set up the policy correctly, you want to make sure that when you pull that money out, it acts like it never left. So you don't want that money to come out. Let's say, you know, I'm gonna bless you, right? You got $100,000 in cash value in the next 2 years, right? Amen. So now you go, you're like, yo, I want to go do this investment real quick. I need $50K out. You don't want that insurance policy to appear as if you took out $50K. You still want the compounding interest to grow as if $100K is still in there. If the agent doesn't set that policy up correctly, when you take that $50K out, it can appear if they didn't do it right, it will show you took the $50K out and now you're only compounding on $50K that's left. But you don't want that. You want it, if I took it out, it's behaving like it never left. It's still there and it's still growing compoundedly because I don't want half it. Give me the full gusto.
So what would you tell your agent? Like, oh, yo, I just watched this video with Shedah3. She's talking about this compound interest. Like, what do you tell them to actually make sure it's set up properly?
I would say make sure you book an appointment with my team because we set the policies up correctly. Let's
Y'all
go.
Know. And what about the book? You got to talk about the book you read.
Which one?
What you mean?
What would the Rockefellers do?
Exactly.
Yo, I read a lot of books, man. I'm telling you, I'm on Audible and thing in my head every single day. I read actually 3 books this month between September and now. What would the Rockefellers do? So that also re-piqued my interest into insurance because, like I said, like the myths spread faster than the truths, and it's sad, but it's something that happens all day. So that book pretty much was the Christmas gift that I gave to my entire family. I bought like 8 copies. I gave it to my brother, my 3 sisters, my dad, my mom, my aunt, my uncle. I said, yo, read this book. Like, I don't want to hear anything else until I read this book, at least the first 2 chapters, right? And pretty much what the book said was something that we don't do in our community is leave the generation with a head start, right? They make sure in their family that they never start back at 0. What's the whole point of us doing all the generational wealth if by the time we pass away, they got to start back over? It should be, all right, we got them to level 20. Now they starting at 20, they going to 40. Then they going to 40, they going to 50. We should be raising the level every single time. And with that book, that's what the Rockefellers did. They essentially made it that every single family member has to have a policy, and the beneficiary for the policy is the family trust. And once God forbid somebody passes, when that time comes, that replenishes their money into that trust. And if a family member wants to start a business, they can go to the family bank and borrow money from the family trust. So they never really have to leave outside to go because they've been building this bank since he started. Now, he gave them a super leg up. And the Rockefellers are still one of the wealthiest families to ever, hit the country and even the world. And they still one of the wealthiest families, and he's been gone for years. So it just shows a lot of principle as to when you set your foundation correctly, how your family or even your business can continue to grow. And I just compare that to a lot of different things. But that book is a very, very good read.
Do you think they'll ever change stuff up? Like as far as like the compound interest, the whole life. Do you think they'll change that type of stuff? Like 5, 10, 15 years from now?
I think the powers that be will make sure it doesn't affect them. So if they're using it a certain way,
the billionaires, they probably won't.
Yeah, I think
they because they have the bread, so they won't let it happen.
I mean, for me, I would say like do I think the way how the Rockefellers set their stuff up is going to change? No, because it's intrinsically how they operate their business, and it's been working for years.
Right.
Do I think they'll let that happen? Probably not. Money and influence helps a lot of things. Then again, depends on who's in office and who's doing this and that. But I mean, it's whatever. You guys got to adjust. Things will always change. You just got to know how to, go with the motion.
Yeah, motion and success, Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, you got any questions?
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, just to go back to, you being a middle school teacher.
The middle school
teacher.
No.
I'm thinking because I'm like, because the educational system, like I always think back to it, especially with the kids, like how because everybody been kind of talking about them incorporating like credit in the curriculum and like adding it to like a class, like teaching the kids early. And being that you know so much about credit, like have you ever brought that up to like the principal or trying to like add a class to it, like, or do you get like pushback for it?
So I would say if I brought it to my principal, she would have to figure out a way for it to work with the class day. And then also on my schedule, because I still have a contract that I have to adhere to, and I still have minimum classes I have to have. Now, will I say I want an extra class to deal with them for another period? Probably not. Yeah. But and I won't say deal with them. That sounds horrible, but you know what I mean. These kids be wild. We need a break. Like, yo, give me a period, 30 minutes of silence. I listen to whale sounds sometimes. I be like, yo, they be turned up, man. I'm telling you. But I would say, if the school system adopts it, that would be good, especially for the areas where, I'm in a lower socioeconomic, area. So it's not, kids they never really see somebody making 60, like even 100,000 in a year or 200,000 in a year. Like I had showed them, I actually had showed them Durain's, he sent me his link, and I was like, yo, I want to send them some big numbers. And I showed him Malik's Shopify store. And I let them talk to him. And Malik's 23. So he started pulling up his numbers and they're looking at this guy. He looks young. He actually looks like he could be one of my students' brothers because they look very similar in the face.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I did 350 in, 18 months. And they're like, what? Like $350? And he's like, nah, what you mean? It's 350,000. And he showed them the numbers and they were astonished because they've never seen that in somebody who looks like they could just walk past them in the street. So if they do it, that will be good because the kids need to see that they can reach it. And that's why representation matters and all that kind of stuff because they need to know that they could be able to do it. And I mean, if the DOE decides to do it, that would be great. I don't know where they're going to put it into the system. I don't think they're going to do it in middle school. They'll probably do it in high school and make sure that it's fun. I wouldn't make it cut and dry. It would have to be something that, makes sense. Now, you're going to laugh at this, but I integrate money into my class in 2 ways. I'll talk about it with behavior and credit. I'll throw it into the math. 3 ways. I'll throw it into the math, in the problems we're doing. I won't use John and Jill got to the Apple store and I actually might say Apple iPhone. You know what I'm saying? So that they relate to it, understand. But I actually have my kids play Monopoly 3 to 4 times a year. The reason is because you can tell a lot about a child by how they play the game Monopoly. It's not your money and you holding tight to it. They are that you take the bill out their hand, they're just crumpled up and sweaty. They're stressed. And you give them $1,500. Some of the kids understand the game and some kids don't. So I'm going through and I'll let them play. I'm like, all right, let me see how you play the game. And I can tell with one kid, I'm like, okay, you buying that? They like, no. They saying no to buying every piece of property because they don't want to spend money. They just happy to roll the dice and pass go. Right. And then I have some kids who they buy everything. Yeah. Right. Then I have some kids that one of them, she kind of savvy and she funny too. She's a barterer. So everything she do, she like, I'll trade you. And she don't care what it is. She gonna figure out how to trade to get what she want. And that tells me a lot about how they'll think later in life too. Because if you tight and just happy with pass and go, you might not be interested in investing yet because you freaking out about this Monopoly game. So let me go ahead and introduce to you the concept of buying property and getting rent. Adding hotels, it costs you right now, but when he land on this sucker, you're gonna make this money back in 2 rolls. Right. And then understanding that game, and then even seeing how she was bartering, she's like, well, I want to have this whole side. So I'm gonna figure out how to do it. And she was buying anything and everything just so she could trade to have the whole side. Some of her trades that make no sense, but that was her strategy. But also having a strategy, okay, what's your game plan to win the game? Now, my game plan when I play, I ain't gonna tell y'all because that means I'm gonna crush y'all when I play. That's gonna be my game plan.
I haven't played Monopoly before.
Monopoly is it's a good game. It's a good game. And like I said, I do it about 3-4 times a year. Normally, I already did it once this year. I normally do it around Thanksgiving, around the breaks when they give us downtime. I have 4 games in my class. We'll have 4 games going at the same time, and the kids will have a good time. But I'm also observing them because I don't let them use calculators. So everything has to be quick math. All right, $12, I'll give you a 20. What's you have to give it back. $350, give them 500. What's your math? And the banker can't jack up, or you get kicked from being a banker. And they like touching the money and all that stuff. So
okay.
Do you see any students that, because some people that end up being entrepreneurs, they was like, oh, I wasn't too good in school. I feel like, I was a C student. Do you see any of your students who kind of they might not be the class, kind of focused in class, but you feel like they got that inner entrepreneur side of them?
Yeah, I have a couple. So I had one last year. She graduated. She has her own nail business. You saw her up there. Yeah, I made her increase her prices because she was bugging. She's actually very talented, but she was doing slave labor. And I was like, you need to go up another $30. You're bugged. That's why they coming to you like this because you're cheap.
And they coming quick too.
They coming quick. And she's like, what? I'm like, look at your profit margins. And we talked about it. And she went up to $75. And guess what? They still paid her because she's still a lot less than going to the store. But she's very good. And she's in high school. I have another student. He's a good drawer. He's active. After Malik came on, he was super excited about starting his clothing line. And he asked me a couple times, what do you have to do? And I gave him the information. I'm always going to be forthcoming with my students, and they know that. And then I have a couple more that he's always trying to pay me $1 for something. And I'm like, bro, I don't do nothing for $1. What do you, when you keep doing this every day? Yeah. But he's always he's very hustler mentality. So I could see him getting into something. And I have another student, he's really good with his hands. And I tell my kids a lot, skills pay the bills. So just whatever you do, be the best at it, and you'll always be compensated according to your ability. And he's really good with his hands. He's like a focus student. So if he gets into like mechanics or even engineering or technology or robotics, I don't know what it would be. As long as it's with his hands, he's good. If it's with the numbers and he don't want that. And that's okay, because that's not for everybody. If it was woodwork, he'll probably be the best. Like whatever he picks to do with his hands, he's going to be fire. Wow. Because that's his key. So I see it in them. I'll never say like, oh yeah, that kid, because they suck at school. Like school doesn't dictate what you're good at. It just defines, it just provides measurable steps that we can use to kind of like grade ourselves. But, I see a lot of my kids and I'm like, okay, for example, this week we did a lot of the test data. So knowing where they were 2 years ago, last year, especially with COVID. Mm-hmm. And my goal, and I say it to my students every single year, and I said it to my 7th graders last year, I said, I don't care what your score is. It just needs to level up. I don't care. I don't care if you have a 1, 2, 3, or 4. You just need to level up. You cannot go backwards. Never in life can you go backwards. You need to level up. Did the numbers, we got it back this year, 90% of that class leveled up. Only 2 of them stayed technically the same. And that's because they were a low 3. Now they're a higher 3. She was like 2 points from a 4. And she was pissed when I showed her the numbers, because I want you to aspire to always level up. It's not really about the math. Like, oh, it's a test. It's about your ambition for that that competition, and also your ambition for being better than you were last year. Right. So that's, don't let me talk all day on these kids. I could do it all day.
I definitely had a situation like that where I had, in middle school, I had a teacher. She's like our social studies teacher. And I found her on Instagram. She was on the Shade Room. And I'm like, wait.
What?
It wasn't no bad stuff, but I'm like, that was my 7th grade teacher. And then I started following her. She talks about dating, relationships. She's a coach and everything. Crazy thing is, we went to Invest Fest and I seen her in the room.
That's crazy.
I'm like, you remember me? She's like, no. I'm like, Cody with James, Messiah, all these kids. She's like, I remember you. I'm like, yeah, I got the beard and everything. It's crazy to see you in the same room, like fast forward about 10 plus years now, I was in 7th grade.
That's crazy.
Like, it's crazy. That's definitely crazy. That's, I'm like, oof, you're going to have to come on the podcast, teacher. Yeah. But now I got a quick question though. So now, how did you grow so fast on Instagram? Like, what were some of those methods you used? Like,
I ain't telling y'all these trade secrets. You know what I'm saying? I know the people at IG, and shout out to Pookie. No, I'm joking. Consistency, man.
Yeah.
Consistency. People like when you show up. And if you show up consistently, I don't want to say the algorithm tends to reward you, but the people tend to reward you. Because they're like, yo, every time I see somebody, they're like, yo, I always see your post on Instagram. Or they say, yo, I always see you going live. That word always is key to consistency. Cause and they like, yo, you in the car, They know my goddaughter, like, that's the point that that I do a lot of my lives in the car. And they're like, yo, you were always on the go. I'm like, why? You always in the car? I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way to work.
Sunglasses. And they be in the comments like, it looked like you in the George Washington.
Yo, they be eyeing with like, yo, you passing the Barclays. And I'm like, yo, how you know the location? What you watching? And that's just showing up consistency. Like, showing up consistently for people and providing good value. Value is important because, like I said, the myths spread faster than the truth. So if you're able to spread truths and try to compound that myth spreading so fast, like catch up to it, people actually value that. And a lot of people tell me like, yo, like I got recently somebody hit me up and was like, yo, just offer like 3 of your lives. My score went from a 500 to a 679. Like that's just off a live. Right. And they join the community just off that. Like, yo, if you're doing this online and I'm just like, yo, information will change the situation. You have to execute that joint though. So I'm happy that you executed. Like, I'm excited for that. And that's there's no magic pill. There's no like, oh, it's showing up consistently. I did a live in my car. I don't want to say in my car, but I did a live every single day for a year and 3 months. Every day.
Every single day.
Every single day.
Even on Thanksgiving.
Even on Thanksgiving. I was drunk as hell, drinking Uncle Nearest every single day.
Yeah.
every single day for a year and 3 months. And when I stopped, I was it was after my versus event. I was exhausted, and that's the only reason why I didn't go. I slept for 13 hours the next day, but I did it for every single day for a year and 3 months. So if that shows you the type of consistency, now you don't have to go live. My method was, I said I was going to start going live, and I wanted to show up every day. That was more like, it was more for me than it was for the audience. Like, I'm showing up for myself. So whether it was one person on a live or 140 people, at one live I had 300 people on a live. If it was 1 to 300, I was going to show up either way, because it really wasn't for you. I was showing up for myself, because at that point, once I started doing it, I got past 20 days, I said, I want to see how long I could go. Mm-hmm. So it was really me showing up for myself. And in turn, they got a benefit because I was able to drop gems on a regular basis, and I help a lot of people. And sometimes, like, there was one point where I met this lady. She was on the lives every day. I didn't see her for a month. When she came back on, I'm like, yo, I missed you. Where you been at? She's like, yo, I didn't even realize anybody like missed me. Right. And I'm like, nah, you was always commenting on the stuff. I was literally talking to you. And till now, I've met her family. Like, it's certain things that you don't realize resonate with people. And when you show up consistently, they can show up consistently, because people want to be consistent. They just want somebody to share that journey with. So even when I post, like, sometimes I'm on my weight loss journey, you know, and I want to say the weight loss, it's a better habits journey. It's like, people wrote me and was like, yo, I know what you mean. Yo, entrepreneurship put on like 100 pounds on me. And I'm like, I know, it's crazy, right? It's like that freshman 50 all over again. And so many people reached out to me about that, because some people don't have these things to share with. Like, y'all are lucky, and we're lucky in this space where we share this space with other people who are also on that journey. Like, I remember when you started, can I say it?
Yeah, say it.
When you started talking about the fruit diet, you sent me the YouTube videos and everything. And then when you posted a half a picture, it was like you from a flash. And I was like, yo, Slim Shady, what's going on? And so people like to share that journey, because we root for the underdog. And then we also like to see other people win. Not everybody's a hater. Now, there are haters out there, but you're real, true, like, I want to say fans, but people who adore you, and people who also want to feel that level of connection. They love to see you win. Just like I was excited. I'm like, nah, Cody out here beating me. I'm like, every day. Every time he posts a picture, I'll be like, oh, I thought I was gonna wake up this morning at 4 o'clock. Let me get in here and do these. Like, I it's competitive, but it's also like, you know what? You're pushing me to be better, because at the end of the day, health is wealth. And also, you know, we want to make sure we level them up in the right way. So
right. Okay.
So, like, being that, you know, because you're not like the typical entrepreneur. You actually, you know, you went to school, you know, you got your master's, like, you did everything right. And now you also kind of got like your own business on the side. So where do you see yourself like 5 years from now? Do you see yourself like still teaching, or like if the business is cash flowing crazy, like, do you feel like you're kind of going to sit back and kind of like enjoy your time?
So I told myself in the beginning I wouldn't teach past 10 years. And I'm not going to actually put a date on it no more. Because last year I said I was going to teach this year. And then one of my students called me in the summer crying. And I was like, all right. I can't. I'm a softie at heart. But in the next 5 years, I do see myself running multiple 7-figure businesses on the path. And, you know, getting heavily involved in real estate. That's something that I really, truly admire to do. And I'm learning the process currently, a lot of the processes. Like, I'm always, like I said, if I find something and I like it, I'm diving. I'm going head first. So that's where I see myself in the next 5 years. Will I be teaching? I don't know. Will I be teaching? Probably adults, maybe kids, you know, because even like I had my event over the summer, I had my students working. My students text me outside. They on my lives. They're on my page. Half of my classes follow me. So, and I don't care, because if they watch it, they might pick something up. I'm not going to have anything crazy on my page. Everything I put on my page is inspirational, educational, or it's just me being myself and having fun. So the next 5 years, I know 2 of my businesses will be at 7 figures, possibly 8. Amen. And will I be teaching? Probably still, but in a classroom, like systemized, contractually obligated. I don't really think that. If it happens, I'm gonna go with the motion.
You're gonna be successful.
But if it don't, you know, if it changes, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, do I see myself being heavily involved in teaching finance and money to kids? Absolutely. People reach out to me all the time to do, like, I worked with the Q organization on running some of their Saturday classes they have. And a lot of other frats and sororities have reached out to me after, since they seen the class I did with them. So, you know, like, we have to, like, I can't, it would be selfish of me to be like, yeah, nah, I'm done teaching. Like, nah, I'm not that type of person.
That's what's up. That's like a real passion for it too. So like, how has your real estate journey been? Like, how was it like, you know, getting in? Like, you had any mentors, or you kind of like just, you know, I know you're gonna do your own research, but like, how was it jumping in it?
So I partnered in the beginning, and I still partner. I don't feel comfortable yet jumping on by myself, but collaboration is very important to me. So I still partner when it comes to real estate. Like, my first deal was a partner. My second deal was a partner. My third deal was a partner. One of the ones I'm working on now, I'm partnering, and I like this partnership. Like, this partnership will be something that we can help a lot of people because we complement each other very well. So when it comes to real estate, am I going to sit here and say I'm shooting in the dark by myself? Nah, I'm not really. I've always been a team player. And if I can be a good asset to the team, I'm going to do what I can and do my part. So when it comes to real estate, like, I'm doing straight collaboration and good partnerships. And the partnership I got right now, like, it seemed like it was just bound to happen. Like, it was meshed, you know?
I think collabs is always the best thing too. Like, especially us with the credit repair. Like, you know, like, just, it gives you that experience, that exposure, education, knowledge. What would you do in this situation? What would you do? So, and like, for example, us, like, this came because we met each other at the Formula Conference. That was back in 2021. Yeah. Fast forward 2 years later, he's walking in InvestFest with a camera. I'm like, yeah, we should shoot some content. You know what I mean? Like,
that's how that happened.
That's how it happened. It
and you know what's crazy? That'd be the best ones. Yeah. When I started going live, I did not have a plan. I just knew I didn't want to do lives in the car without a hands-free stand. I didn't like how it felt. So I ordered it, and then that's how I started. Sometimes I want to say, you know, with the phrase, you know, if you plan to fail, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Yeah. But sometimes when opportunity meets preparation, it just happens that way. Because if you weren't there, like, I'm gonna tell you this story about Cody not trying to go to an event because he was trying to use
you could drop it on him.
He was trying to use his points and miles correctly, and then I was a bully friend, and then he went and he enjoyed himself. But that's essentially what happens when you do preparation and, you know, opportunity meets itself. So that for y'all to get connected, that wasn't by accident. Like, if Cody wasn't there confidently with himself, you wouldn't have had that conversation. If you didn't show up confidently in yourself, you wouldn't have had that conversation. And because y'all did appear confident and together, it just seemed like, all right, and then you met each other in another room. Yeah. It wasn't the first time y'all paid to be in a room together. Yeah. You kind of know, like, all right, yo, this guy's, we on the same frequency level. And we from the city. Let's go. Like, Brooklyn. Let's go.
I know you're from Brooklyn.
It's good seeing you get to it though. It really is.
Okay. Last question before we wrap up. How important is getting in the rooms for you, like, personally speaking? Because I know you're always traveling to get into a room. Sometimes a room might be across a bridge. Sometimes it might be around a block. How important is it for you to get inside these rooms?
Listen, getting in rooms is the most important thing, because if your business partner was on the block, you would have already met them. You would have already started, but they're not there, right? That person that might motivate you to be better is not on the block, because if they motivated you to be better on the block, you would already be where you need to be, and then realize you need to find more people like that. So getting in rooms is the most important thing, because you need to be around that campfire. Friend of mine, Marlon, likes to call it the campfire effect. The warmer you are, you stay warm. The further away you get, you stay cold, and you're looking to see what's going on. How they still roasting marshmallows at the fire, because it's lit there. You get what I'm saying? So understanding that getting into rooms is helping you find that bridge, helping you find that missing piece. You might not go there for a wealth of information, but you might find that one person that could turn you up. And for me, getting into rooms was either Zoom rooms, online rooms, in-person rooms, creating my own room, because I know how beneficial it was for me. And even in my community, I see people, I'm like, yo, y'all hang out all the time? They're like, yeah, we have brunch, or we have these mastermind classes, and because they live in the same area, but they didn't meet each other until they came to my event. Like, yo, you live here too? Oh, nah, we got to connect. And all of a sudden, they're besties, and they have somebody that they can share business ideas with, and they have somebody they can be accountable with, because they met them in a room. That wasn't somebody they met in their church circle, school circle, block circle, work circle. It was somebody that they chose to meet because they went somewhere that person also chose to go because they had the same mindset to go there. Right. So that's like, you know, how important rooms are, because a room will turn you from a 4-figure earner to a 5-figure earner, Absolutely. A 5-figure earner to a 6-figure earner, 6-figure earner to a 7-figure earner. And the more people you meet in these rooms, the better off you become. You know what happens when you get in them rooms?
Everything
Motion and success happens in the rooms.
Everything good. So sorry, I know I just said last question. So now talk about a little bit about the Versus event, because you created a room, you know what I mean? After getting in so many rooms, you decided like, all right, cool. I could actually create my own room and people are actually going to attend, right? Just talk a little bit about that.
So I created the first ever playground for entrepreneurs where you could literally come into a ring and see entrepreneurs duke it out intellectually on their perspective skills. So what are you good at? I'm going to find somebody else that's also good at that thing. And y'all going, who's the best masterclass teacher? Who can break it down in 7 to 10 rounds so somebody can go out and execute this right now? Because if you know your stuff, you could spit it off and go ahead and get somebody some wins. So when I created that room, it was kind of like, you know what? I love seeing the verses. It was one of the greatest things that happened during the pandemic because I love music. My favorite one was, Beanie Man and Bounty Killer. It was a good thing for Jamaica. Wagwan, boop, 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 right? So it was a great time. And I love seeing it come together. And the only thing that was missing for me, I'm like, damn, I wish that we would come together like this for something that would financially benefit us. So why don't we create a room very similar? We love competition. We love competition. We love sports. So let's take information, turn it competitive, and make it into like a kind of a sports thing. So every time I build out a room for that, I always build it in a ring because I want you to realize that this is not feel good. I want to motivate you. Now I want to give you information right now. It's going to punch you dead in the mouth. And let's go. The play for play.
Just like that.
Just like that.
When's the next one?
That is dope.
We working on it. I'm hoping February, March. I'm hoping February, March. I'm hoping for 2024. I'm hoping for it. That's a date we're looking for. And I want to keep it up in the tri-state area. Yeah. Because we don't have like a lot of events going to Atlanta, Florida, Vegas, Texas, and I love that. I love that for them. But
come up here.
I'm saying like I need to see more people in New York that are interested in these type of things and get them connected to people that's local to them. Because like I said, your next business partner, you didn't even realize y'all knew each other till y'all went into Formula Conferences. Where? What state?
Yeah, Atlanta.
Exactly. Y'all met in Atlanta and y'all live in the same state. So how about we keep it in New York and y'all can know who's super local. You get what I'm saying? So that's what it's about.
So I got a bold and audacious question. Versus event, Motion and Success. Is there opportunity for us to interview people?
We can set that up. All
right, cool. You gotta be bold and audacious sometimes. So that was my bold and audacious moment. Any final thoughts?
I just wanted to say that versus the versus battle with the entrepreneurs, I feel like that's a dope idea. Like I definitely gotta tap in. Like so y'all have a main event kind of like undercard?
Yeah, we've had 2 so far. The first one we had in January for my birthday weekend. January 17th. I'm a size medium in hoodies for everybody. If you want that. We did it so it was houses versus cars. So Turo versus Airbnb. Super dope. We had La Russell, the independent artist out of California, come through. We had my boy Mims come through, and it was a super dope experience because the craziest part was the bartender upstairs, because VIP it was free leg for everybody upstairs. His son had an incident with Turo a week before the verses where his car was stolen, and he's listening to everything they're going through in the rounds. And he said, if my son knew this, he would know where his car is. He went into it uneducated and didn't know how to set up his car correctly. And he was like, yo, thank you so much for bringing me, because he wanted to do it again, but he got burnt so bad. He didn't want to, because he was making money, then something happened. And like I said, it was the houses versus the cars, and actually we ended up being the women versus the fellas.
Yeah.
And the funniest part was that both of the females from Airbnb also had cars. So it was when they were talking trash, they was sucking with their whole chest. Cause at one point Gigi had like 7, 8 cars, and Chance had cars attached to her houses. So she had Airbnb. You could also rent the car with when you book the Airbnb. You had an option to add the car to it. So it was a very dope battle. That was the first one. And then me and my boy Dub went head to head on credit hacks on 10 rounds of, what's the best things to do round for round, blow for blow. And that was hilarious and also so educational because, like I said, we don't know these things. And then the second one we did, because we on the second one, baby, we run these things back. We did how to get into real estate for less than $10,000. So everybody that came to the stage had to own at least 30 properties, right? And then they had to teach you how to get into real estate for less than $10,000. And if you could get into real estate for less than $10,000, that fear factor we were talking about earlier, it kind of decreases. Like that risk factor is less than if I say, oh, here's this $1 million deal. You shook. If I say 10,000,
right.
You might be more inclined to, take a step out and then build that confidence to get to that $1 million deal. So that's what the verses is all about. We're going to run it back. I'm going to get y'all a date.
What's the ideas you thinking next one? Like versus
I don't know.
Trucking versus rental.
I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna tap into trucking yet. It's kind of them rates is out here kind of crazy.
And I gotta say with that too, that kind of filters out especially people going out to get mentorship and things like that. They want to make sure who they're learning from is like legit. So they come on your stage and they out here giving you actionable steps, then you're gonna be like, all right, this person is.
On top of that, too, you get to pick and choose. So I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, well, what's the difference between you and so-so? I'm like, well, it's who resonates with you. Who's your teacher? Like, who can you learn from? You might not learn from Joe Schmo. It might be Tyler, I don't know, Smith, right? That might be the person. But they might be friends and they teach similar things, but his teaching style resonates with you more. So you have the choice to pick. Like the last one we had land banks, we had mobile homes, we had, tax liens and deeds. You could pick which avenue you wanted to start with. You're not just, okay, well, it's real estate. You had different choices. Like, what? I like what he said with the tax deal. I like, I like Shorty with the mobile home. That's what it was. I like that. And you can actually go with who resonates with you based on what they taught you how to do. And if people were to take their steps and act on it, oh yeah, you found your teacher right there. Now go get him.
Right. That's dope. That's good. But yeah, so I don't have any more questions, bro. So definitely.
So my last question is, of course, I'm gonna just close with this, like
a teacher question.
He about to ask me the teacher question.
So
you gonna come to my class tomorrow? Wait, what's that address? I'm pulling up.
So I was gonna say, like, where do you see your legacy? Like, where do you see yourself? Like, just with all the things you're doing right now, where do you see your legacy going?
Impact. For me, it's all about impact. Whether it's, adults, kids, it's all about impact. I'm already having impact already. And it's just fuel for me because the more people you help and they tell you and you see the results and you see the life change, it's like, yo, you're operating in your gift. And it's fortunate for me that I actually have a degree in my gifts, right? I have a master's in teaching. And like you said earlier, not everybody thinks school is this, that, and the third. But I went to school. I have my bachelor's. I have my master's in teaching. And I work as a teacher. So I'm fully operating in the gift that I love to teach. I thoroughly enjoy it. If you came in my class, which you should, because I think you will enjoy it. I have fun teaching, right? And my kids know I have fun teaching. Even if they're having a bad day, I'm operating in my gift. So where I see my impact being a phenomenal teacher and helping people to see the best in themselves so that they can execute the best in themselves. That makes sense?
That definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
This is a great convo.
It was, absolutely. I think talking to Shedah is always a great conversation for sure. You always gonna learn something for real. So now, teaching, learning, we done learned a whole lot of stuff. We talked about travel, we talked about credit, we talked about, all kinds of stuff.
We did.
So now how can the people further this conversation with you? To actually tap in, because I tapped in with you, when you first started, when I first started too. And what really resonated with me was because number one, you was from the same area. Number two, you were a teacher. So that definitely gave me that upper level, nah. And then when she said, I don't even touch my teacher checks, I'm like, Woo! Okay, all right, cool. So that's how I was able to tap in. So now, how can the people tap in with you now?
So listen, you can follow me on Instagram. All right, Shedah3. All right, if you DM me the word 750, I'm teaching master classes every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right now. And just go into my bio, man. We have information, and I want to make sure that you join a people and community that will actually help you grow. Because, like we said, these rooms are important. Your business partner is in these rooms, but you're not there, so you have to find ways to be there. So if you follow me on Instagram, Shedah3, and DM me the word 750-750, you can actually get access to the class.
Okay. Is there any discount or anything?
No? I got you.
All right. So we'll be talking.
It'll probably be motion. I like that word.
Any
all day.
Any percent?
I'll give y'all some motion and see y'all have some success. How about that?
Find out when y'all type that motion.
Yeah, I got y'all something. Got y'all something.
All right, cool. So I like that. So thank you, Shedah3.
No problem.
Much appreciated. This was a great conversation. We gonna see y'all at the verses.
Let's go.
Thank you all for tuning in.